Welcome back to Salman MKC, and as an incoming Microsoft intern, I'm here to bring you my first video in the series of how you can get your dream internship. This video is going to solely focus on only 5 tips that I have for your resume, which can go from drastically changing your resume from some resume which is really bad to a resume which recruiters cannot skip over, and they have to reach out. Being a student and being expected by your peers, your elders, people around you, seeing all these posts on like CS careers on Reddit and all these things, you feel like there's this sort of mentality which is like okay, if you don't get one of these big companies, it doesn't count. But no, it does. Any internship is a good experience. So whilst it might be harder, it's still possible. So let me try and help ease that process just for you. Now, how do I know these tips work? Well, the proof is in the pudding. This video is not about bragging, but I'm here to help you. This is something you can do too, and my only ask is that you subscribe. If you like the video, you share this video with others, and I will keep making these weekly videos depending on how much you all support, because this does take time and I'm a very busy person. My internship is starting already. Some of you may think like, nah, my resume is too good, like there's no point for me to watch this video. All recruiters will just come to me. What sort of value can I get from this video? There's multiple times where I've just skipped the first round, and having like multiple offers with room to make them wait to say, okay, still interviewing with other companies, and even room to try and negotiate. Additionally, like telling companies like, no, I'm not interested, like I didn't think I would be at this stage. Okay, so if you're in that situation like me, then you're good to go. You don't need to watch this video, but I mean, might as well, because there's always room for improvement. But if you aren't in that situation, then watch this video. Microsoft only hires around 50 students for the full year program, and I was lucky enough to be one of those. Wherever it is this series, it's free and it's here to help. Take the advice. In future videos I'll talk about interview tips, how to approach recruiters, etc. Now I do want to say it does get to the point where it's hard to navigate your inbox, your messages. I get phone calls during university and also having to travel to offices all the time, just darting around. I guess it's a negative, but it's better than having no internship, right? So if you're willing to get that trade-off, here's that video. Let's start with number 1. Small disclaimer, I'm just a second year student. Feel free to disagree and leave those comments down below or tweet me at SalmanMKC. So here we go. First step, have keywords in your resume. Do you think all these recruiters are going through every single application in the world? In this day and age, companies get thousands of applications. It's all online. This shift to online applications, LinkedIn, big data analytics, and artificial intelligence. If you're only hearing back from smaller companies, then perhaps you're just getting filtered out based on keywords by an automated scanning system. My tip is to literally, even if this means putting a list of skills at the top of your resume saying, hey, I do C#, I do SQL, I do Java, I do Python, I can use NumPy. Having these keywords in your resume are really key. Think about it like a search engine. When you look for certain people, you search for these words. You could easily, you don't have to put it as a list of keywords. I can cover this in another video. Just highlight, put certain keywords in bold. If you're talking about, hey, I made a project to using a chatbot. Say perhaps using Lewis. Maybe use JavaScript as the backend. Put that there. Put all these keywords there, because those are keywords which are potentially going to get you filtered into the top pool of candidates. Secondly, keep your resume short. This is a mixed bag, but people ask me all the time to read their resumes and their Microsoft Student Partner applications, having to go through 5 pages. But loads of people who have loads of experience still fit it in 1 page. So it's sort of like if you think about a portfolio, you only want to show your best work. If you have some key project or achievement and I have to look through 6,000 words just to see that, then there's a lower chance of me seeing that. Imagine you're in a job interview and you get to the next stage, and not all these resumes are seen just at the beginning. These resumes get passed on through the hierarchy, and then when you progress to the next stage, you might have a recruiter who's looking at interviewing like 10 candidates on the day, and they only have 10 or 5 minutes to look at your resume, and then they get bombarded with a 5-page resume. They have to keep flicking over all of these pages. Don't give them that trouble. Just give them a nice clean 1-page resume. Have bullet points in there that nicely leads on to tip number 3. Third tip, simple, sweet and short. Sometimes less is more. You should put experience which is relevant to the industry you're applying to. If you have a few jobs already and you're running out of space and you're overflowing into another page, think about which relevant experience you actually have and cut those things which are irrelevant out. Imagine I'm a recruiter and you come meet me in person and I ask you to tell me a bit about yourself, and I give you a task and I tell you create an elevator pitch. You have 40 seconds to tell me everything which you think is relevant about yourself. Think about that. Would you start talking about that time you used to mow lawns, when you used to do babysitting? You probably would, and you would talk about the relevant experience related to the job, and that would be, hey, that project I made, that thing I did in university, that group project, that working in this internship I delivered this product and it affected this many customers. That's another point. When you start talking about these things, you've cut out all this irrelevant information. You can start talking about more details about your project. You start talking about measurable things, because at the end of the day, that's what they're going to be measuring you on if you get the job. They're going to be measuring you on these hard skills. Those are measurable. They show that you pay attention to detail. You can track these things over time, and that you realize you're actually measuring your own performance. You realize what effect you're having on the company. So if you can see that, hey, at the beginning you're able to reflect, you're able to say, hey, you made a change over time as an intern, you've actually made a valuable impact on that company. That's what they also want. You're showing that you've actually done something. So to summarize, just show your best work. There's no point in me showing 1,000 pictures that I've taken with photography or 1,000 projects if all of them are going to be trash. I only want to show my best work, and that's what they're looking for. So yes, as a software engineer, I'm gonna actually start talking about photography, but as a photographer, I would choose to do put only the best photos out there. There's no point in me putting a photo which makes me look worse than I actually am. That's just gonna impact me negatively. No one gets to see the bad stuff. To put it a bit cliche, quality over quantity. It's pretty simple. Number 4, cut out that trash formatting. There's no point in having these fancy doodles and designs. Just a bit of color coordination. Having a bit of blue, having a bit of black, 2-color design scheme. Going back to that keyword point, putting all your skills in bold, putting things like SQL, putting Node.js, putting C#, all these skills in bold, they will make it stand out to the recruiter when they're actually, scanning your resume in person. Having these points and bullet points so it's easier to scan. And a side note, I don't know why people do this, but don't put a resume picture. To make this easier to apply to all countries and places around the world, I used to think this was okay. And then I looked into it, and certain countries do not allow you to have pictures on your resumes when it comes to recruiting people. And maybe just have one resume without your picture and then resumes with your picture if you really think you need that. But I mean, you've got that professional headshot, you can put that on LinkedIn, you've got all these social media. Recruiters are trying to be unbiased, and having a picture makes it so much more complicated, and a lot of companies do not like having pictures on there, so you just might get screened out straight away. Even if you pass the filtered system, you just might get screened out. It just gets into a long, complex procedure, because then, say if there's in person, you might be having all these resumes in your hand, and then you're walking around and you're looking through the candidates. You might have someone's picture on there, and that's not going to be that easy to deal with. You might feel like, we're not supposed to judge based on bias, so it's just a lot easier to just skip using pictures at all. But if you really insist on it and you look into this, then perhaps just make one with and without a picture, and you look into the regulations regarding that. My 5th and final tip is to show your personality a bit. This isn't the same as making a resume off topic. This isn't making the main focus or the bullet points at the top about your soft skills. But you can have this at the bottom of your resume. You can have 3 bullet points. I have certain things. So this is where I mentioned photography. The first competition I ever entered, I won. But I don't actually even mention that. I keep it simple and sweet. I'm not making it off topic. I just mentioned literally the word photographer. Also, don't get carried away with this. I also play 7 instruments, but I didn't mention once on my resume that I play music. Now, this could be a good idea. This could show that you have that brain capacity or something. I don't know. I just don't mention it. It's up to you. But, putting a few soft skills in there. I didn't mention how I organized the tea party, but I mentioned things which are still sort of relevant to my industry to some aspects. So I mentioned, talking in fintech panel, shortening my Microsoft Build talk to just presented at Microsoft Build. Big emphasis though that these can just be a few bullet points at the end of your resume. They demonstrate that you're not just a robot that enjoys coding and studying, although it may seem like it from all the points you mentioned above. And I've got one last final bonus tip for you. So if you want to, get this last bonus tip, you've got to subscribe, and I will tell you that in the next video. So if you do want to see that, do hit that like button, subscribe, share this video with all your friends and family. Let me know what you thought of this. If I see enough support, I will continue to do this. I will make this a weekly series. There's a lot more I can cover. First round interviews, meeting recruiters, how you can actually communicate with recruiters. I asked loads of people what they actually want, so I've got a bunch of ideas in my head. I post a lot on Twitter at SimonMQC, and you can hit that subscribe button down there, hit the bell notification button so that you can get emailed whenever I post, and I will see you next week. Bye!